Alrighty. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the regular monthly meeting of the Greater Royal Oak Area Democratic Club. My name's Tom Regan. I'm the chair. And then could the other officers on the call, could you go ahead and introduce yourselves, please?
Hi, everyone. I'm Lauren Jasinski. I'm the co-chair.
Ian, go ahead.
Hi, sorry, my internet's a little shoddy, so sorry. Apologies for that. I'm the treasurer.
That was Ian Duncanson. He's our treasurer. And then Tim, are you on yet? Tim Chahorsky?
Yeah, I'm here. Good morning, everyone. Good to see you. My name is Tim Chahorsky, and I am the secretary.
And then we have a ritual here. If this is your first time at one of our meetings, or if this is your first time here in a long time, we invite you to introduce yourself and tell us why you came. It's not required or anything like that. But is there anybody here? It's your first time here, or your first time here in a long time? If you'd like to introduce yourself and tell us why you came, now would be the time to do it. Go ahead and unmute yourself and introduce yourself. Going once. Going twice.
I'm Erika Alexander, and I'm here to both hear Lisa speak, and then also just because I'm interested in learning a little bit more about the club and what goes on at meetings.
Alrighty, thanks, Erika. Anybody else like to introduce themselves?
Yeah, I would.
Go ahead.
My name is Frank Kamola. My wife and I just moved here to Royal Oak within the last month. We moved here from Massachusetts. Our daughter has lived out here for probably the last 10 years. She's hoping to start a new family, and as grandparents, we wanted to be a minute and a half away as opposed to a 2-hour flight. I belong to the Haverhill, Massachusetts Democratic Party Committee, and was pretty active in several of the elections that took place out there. And when I got out here, being active, but also moving into a battleground state, I was very interested in hopping on board as soon as I could to see that Biden and Harris get elected out here.
Frank has already been volunteering. Thank you for that, Frank, and Francis as well.
You're welcome.
Would anybody else like to introduce themselves? Alrighty, announcements. First, I need 3 people to help. If you'd like to help deliver yard signs, it'd be about 6 or 7 yard signs apiece. I just need 3 people who can help today. But if you're able to help, just send me a chat message or send me an email. Just 3 people to deliver like 6 or 7 yard signs apiece. You know, we've been selling those Biden-Harris yard signs, and they've been going like hotcakes. We got a $75 gift card to the White Wolf Japanese restaurant. And what happened was a fellow named Andrew Ross, who lives in Maine, his nephew apparently was at the White Wolf Japanese restaurant and made a fool of himself for objecting to having to wear a mask. And so his uncle was so embarrassed by that, he bought a $75 gift certificate for our club. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it to the One campaign. They're starting canvassing now, and I'm going to give it to the One campaign, and they can use it to buy, you know, snacks for the volunteers. Does anybody else have any announcements? Amanda Herzog, go ahead.
Hi everyone. I'm a commissioner of the Oakland County Parks and Recreation Commission, and it's on the ballot on November 3rd. I'm going to put in the chat like more information about what is going to be on what the millage will support. I'm really excited about the environmental sustainability and conservation efforts that are going to be put into the park system. I also have Vote Yes signs, and they're really nice. So if you would like one, you can email me and your address, and I will deliver throughout Oakland County. So just let me know if you want one. So thank you.
Thank you, Amanda Herzog. Senator McMorrow, go ahead, please. Oh, I'm sorry, Ray, you're muted.
Yeah, it's me. Actually, this one's me. Sorry, it's got both of us on the same Zoom. So I wanted to first of all thank everyone who's bought one of the Biden-Harris signs from the OCDP. This has been absolutely amazing, especially with bingo shut down for the OCDP. It's really killed any ability that we've had in order to be able to raise money. And So I wanted to let everyone know that your contributions that you've made, thank you. Wow, you are the most overqualified Vanna White ever. The $25 that are being given as a donation, first of all, they're helping to not only sustain the OCDP, but we're taking that money that's coming in, not only are we sharing it out with the locals, for example, with the Royal Oak Dems, because of all the hard work you've been doing to not only promote them and to place them, there's going to be over $2,000 that are going to be coming to the Royal Oak Dems for you guys to be able to spend in any way that you guys see fit, which is amazing. And it's really thanks to Tom's leadership and everyone who's helped to participate. On top of that, what we've also been able to do is to take that money and invest it directly into local candidates. So we've been giving $1,000 checks to the state house candidates who, and putting even more resources on top of that for those that are targeted precincts or targeted districts, as well as also our county commission candidates. We just signed off on $5,000 in checks to go over to Dave Woodward to be able to help us to win another county commission seat and to protect the 4 targeted seats. So it is absolutely vital that all of this work that you guys are doing, because Royal Oak has been the community that has sold the most. This is all because of you guys. So the OCDP can't thank you guys enough. And if you know people who want to sign, push them to buy, because it's going to a good cause and it's helping us to be able to make Oakland County go blue. So I will. I'll drop the link again back into the chat.
Thank you, Ray Wirt. Then if you do have an announcement to make, if you hover your mouse cursor over the bottom of your screen and click the participants icon, that'll open up a window on the right side of your screen. Then in there's a blue raise hand icon. So if you had an announcement to make, or later in the meeting, if you wanted to speak up to an issue, just click that blue raise hand icon and we'll call on you. But Joanne Brown, go ahead, please.
Okay. I have experienced 2 cases where people have bought signs and they weren't delivered to them. So I intervened, I went and got them the signs. So I think somebody should be policing the delivery of these paid signs.
Okay. If anybody, if you hear of that again, let me know right away. Then I can figure it out. But yeah, we've had a couple of cases where people have just plunked the signs on the wrong lawns, and then we had to run back with a different sign. But yeah, let me know if that happens right away, and I can jump on it. Does anybody else have any announcements? Let's get our treasurer's report from Ian Duncanson. Oh, excuse me, Lauren. I'm sorry, I missed one. Lauren Jasinski had an announcement. Go ahead, Lauren. I'm sorry.
Sorry about that. Hey, everyone. I just wanted to mention at the top of the meeting that we do have closed captioning and subtitles for the meeting. If you go to the menu at the bottom of your screen and click on closed captioning or more, you should see an option to turn on subtitles, and it will be fully closed captioned just in case anybody is difficult to hear or if you need to see some of the text. I just wanted to remind people that that's an option.
All righty. Thanks, Lauren. Then Ian Duncanson, if you could please give us our treasurer's report.
Yeah, so our current account balance before the OCDP Biden-Harris sign income is $3,429.72. That reflects a $100 donation that we just received from a group of precinct delegates who had raised some money to distribute door hanger materials and had a little left over and decided to donate it to the club. We also spent $97.38 on a 1-year Zoom membership. So now we're locked in for Zoom for the next year. And then that includes $120 of dues for September.
Thank you, Ian. Does anybody have any questions for Ian? If you do, just click that blue raise hand icon. All righty, sorry, Senator McMorrow or Ray Wirt, go ahead, please.
Would you mind dropping, is there a way to be able to do a donation online for dues? And if so, can we drop a link into the chat? Because I love to make sure that I'm up to date.
Yeah, so Tom's got the link for that. We have a Square site set up, so that would be perfect. Just if, when it comes to the OCDP thing, let's figure out a different way just so Square doesn't take their percentage off of that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We'll figure out probably get you a direct check or wire it to you.
Perfect. Sounds good.
All righty, let's go right to our guest speaker, Lisa Zawinters. You know, Royal Oak does have a considerable population, people of color, especially in our schools. I believe 25 or 30% of our student body, people of color. The Royal Oak Multicultural Parents Association is organized to confront issues of racism and and other problems that are facing, especially children of color. So we invited Lisa Zawinters to let us know the kind of thing she's working on. So Lisa Zawinters, please take it away.
All right, thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for inviting ROMPA to come talk to you today. So yes, my name is Lisa Zawinters. I have a daughter in 4th grade at Upton Elementary. I'm actually a schools of choice parent, so I live in Oak Park. I'm also a professor of English and African American Studies at Wayne State. We founded the group in 2017 and have been working steadily since. And this year we've been really heartened and like girded, right, by the immense outpouring of support and real co-conspiratorship from our white allies. So I'm really excited to be here to tell you about our group and kind of give you a background, because I know a lot of people, even though we've been around for about 3.5 years, a lot of people are just now hearing about us and kind of want to have a context for us. So the formal part is, and I've typed my remarks to try and keep myself on track. Those of you who know me know I tend to digress. So the formal part is that ROMPA's mission is to be a voice of equity, diversity, and inclusion for children of color. As a group, we work to educate, empower, and facilitate actions with our school district in order to nurture a school environment that allows all children to excel. We're dedicated to growing the culture of Royal Oak schools to be one that is actively inclusive and to be a safe place for multicultural families to gather and share their experiences. So that's our mission statement. We came together in the wake of the last presidential election. So this is actually very timely that I'm talking to you all right now. And the events of the middle school. So many of you may remember, and for those of you that are new to Royal Oak, it made national news. So the Royal Oak Middle School was where we had the kids chanting "Build the Wall," and that video kind of went viral. And then a couple of weeks after that, there was a noose found hanging in the boys' bathroom. So Danielle Atkinson, who's my co-organizer, and she's a Royal Oak resident, she and I were part of a larger community response, and I'm sure many of you, I'm going to venture, were part of Together for One Royal Oak that was co-organized with Carmen Wargel. And so that was like a multicultural group of residents that came together, not just in the wake of the incidents, but really in response to the board's non-response and non-action around those incidents, right? And so, so Together for One Royal Oak came together really quickly. And I think that what Danielle and I noticed, and we actually met through Together for One Royal Oak, what Danielle and I noticed was that while on one hand, we were really, I think, pleasantly and surprised and again, like enheartened by the outcry from white Royal Oak residents, we also realized that parents of children of color and parents of color were not feeling so entitled to speak up, right? And so we were hearing from individual parents of color that many felt disfranchised and vulnerable, and were hesitant to speak up for fear of retaliation against our kids. I mean, even I, I was afraid to speak up because I was like a schools of choice parent, and I was worried that like that would somehow jeopardize like my child's ability to be in Royal Oak schools. And we know that that fear was based in reality, because what happened to the family of the girl that filmed the Build the Wall chant. She basically suffered incredible like racial harassment, and her family decided to leave the district because of that utter lack of support from the administration. So that's how we came to organize the group, was really to give parents of children of color a collective voice and to empower them and ourselves to kind of speak and advocate for our children. So Lauren, would you mind sharing your screen now? Lauren's going to share the screen. And so what we have here is kind of like a timeline infographic I put together of our work over the last 3 years. And I'm going to go kind of through that. So one of the earliest things that we came together in 2017. It was really important to us that our group be parent-led. So we are a collective enterprise, and we really try to make decisions by consensus. And so the parents decided, we decided on the name of our group, and we very early on, one of the earliest things we asked for was discipline and achievement data. We thought this would be an easy place to start, to have a sense of where the district was so we could know what needed to happen. So we were really surprised when we were met with resistance like right away. The district said, the first response was, we don't have that data that you're asking for. Then when Mary Beth became superintendent, the narrative kind of shifted to more of a reluctance or like to share the data, because they said it wouldn't tell an accurate story without context. So we were like, okay, fine, give us the data with the context. We are all, the parents in our group are like very actually well informed around questions of equity and diversity, and we can handle like numbers with context. And so they still refused. We actually talked about doing a FOIA request. And in the meantime, we were hearing about the harassment of Black children, Black boys, especially at the middle school, especially in the form of police being called to handle insubordination, but also in the more everyday microaggressions of disproportionate, like kind of what we call soft disciplining. So, you know, students being disproportionately taken to task for violating dress codes, for example. And what we were hearing from the superintendent, when we would tell her this is what we're hearing from parents, she would tell us this isn't happening. So it's been really frustrating because, you know, as parents, we're deeply invested in our children's education. We're asking the district to do better because we believe they can do better, and that doing better will in fact benefit everyone in the district, right? So in the meantime, we've kept pressing. We've been active participants in the community forums that Jay Marks facilitated for the district. And I think it's really important to remember that the community forum happened because of pressure from the community. I remember being at school board meetings in January and February following the last presidential election and hearing residents of Royal Oak beg the board for some kind of community conversation about what happened at the school board. So everything that has happened because of pressure from the community and from the parents. So I don't remember the date of the first community forum, but they wrapped up in October 2017. And Jay Marks was kind enough to provide me with notes from this last meeting where the community listed what it wanted from the district. And I'll post the link in just a minute. I'm sorry, Lauren, it's not linked on this infographic, but I can tell you, you know, some of the things that the community came up with in October of 2017 to ask for was discipline reporting and suspension data, a hotline or task force for parents and kids to report racial harassment, more community conversations, open communication between teachers, students, and parents about negative incidents between students and school, ask the district to provide data on classroom culture data, disciplinary data, provide these surveys in multiple languages so that all parents could participate, more diversity across the curriculum, evaluate the equity in our discipline practices, so basically an equity audit, educate the staff on cultural competencies, implement systems for parents to have a voice when racial issues affect their child. So this is in October 2017. This is 3 years ago that we asked for this, you know, that the community, not just ROMPA, but this comes out of the community forum that we asked for this. In February, by February 2018, none of this had happened or been discussed by the board or communicated to the community. So in February 2018, at ROMPA's request, and so maybe if you can link to this, Lauren, this is February 2018, the bias and discipline disparities link. Thank you. We made a presentation to all district administrators. And so in the presentation, we reviewed implicit bias and its connection to discipline disparities. And could you just, could you go to slide 4, please, Lauren? Slide 4 and 5. And I'm not going to go over, oh, that's the wrong link. I'm sorry. Let me see if I can give you the link real quick. I'm just going to post it in the, was that from February 2018? Let me just really quickly. Okay, I'm just going to, I'll talk it through and then I'll post the link just so we don't. So in the presentation that we gave in February 2018, we basically talked about implicit bias. We talked about the research that demonstrates that a culturally competent curriculum actually increases student achievement and student retention across racial groups. And we also talked about the fact that what we're looking for are policy changes, right? And the understanding that attitude doesn't change policy, but policy can change attitudes. And so we have consistently been asking for accountability and policy. So that was in February 2018. By November, we still had no communication from the district about any of this work. So we quietly circulated an open letter to the board demanding data and a plan to move the district forward. We wound up not delivering that letter at the school board meeting in December, in part because the agenda appeared that week. I remember this really clearly, like the agenda was late going up, and then it said that Mary Beth would be talking about the community, the cultural competency engagement committee. So she announced that in December 2018 that they would be forming the Cultural Competence Engagement Committee. It didn't happen until March 2019. So 3 months later was the first meeting of the Cultural Competency Engagement Committee. So October 17th, community forums end. And from there to March 2019, there's no kind of community district-wide conversation on any of these issues. The first meeting was organized entirely by the district. All of the cultural competency engagement committees have been very top-down, but they did ask ROMPA to present. And what they wanted us to present and what we presented were two different things. They wanted us to present a narrative that we've been working with the district. The district has been doing these great workshops with Jay Marks, and we're really happy about that. What we decided to present was the data that we have been asking for. And maybe, Lauren, I don't know if you can show that hopefully, let's see if that, that link works. So this is the March.
You should be able to share your screen now. If that's
oh, great. Okay.
I'm happy to toss it up.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, so let's see. I'm just going to go to. All right, so let's see. That's. I'm going to. You can see all my screens. I'm sorry, I wasn't ready. Okay, let's see. Okay, February 2019. Okay. So this is the data that we presented to, let's see, hopefully it opens the right one. Okay, yeah. Okay, so this is what we presented at the March 2019 Cultural Competency Committee meeting. So we've been asking for a much deeper dive into the data. This is not the data we were asking for. This is the data that was available via the Office for Civil Rights. And so this is the thing about the data and us asking for the data. We knew what we were going to find, right? We were like, Royal Oaks is not a unicorn. Royal Oak schools are not a unicorn. We know that racial disparities in discipline exist. what we want the data for is so we can have a starting point, and then we can develop metrics and measure progress. So I'm not going to go through this, but this is, very quickly we looked at 2013 and 2017 or 2015, and what I'll do is I'll post the link here so that you can look at it on your own if you would like. And it's also linked from the timeline. So we presented that data, and what we did is we looked at both race, but also disability, students with disabilities and IEPs, and talked about like the discrepancies there. So because the CCEC meetings are so top down, am I sharing my screen? Okay, let me.
Yes.
Okay, I need to stop. There we go. Okay. Thank you. Sorry. And many of them seemed designed to restrict dialogue as much as possible. We turned our attention to the board, hoping that they would be moved by their constituency, making it plain to them that the district is failing its students. So in April 2019, we asked members of the Royal Oak High School Diversity Club to make a presentation to the board. And so we had two young women who were extraordinary and very compelling, and talked about their experiences of racial discrimination and shared other students' experiences at Royal Oak High School. So later that same month, Mary Beth invited us and ROMPA leadership to go over discipline data together. We had the meeting. They provided no kind of hard copies of the discipline data. And ironically, even though they, the whole reason that they had said that they didn't want to give us the data was it needed a context, this data had no context. It was just sheer absolute numbers. Like, so you couldn't tell proportions. So that was like a very frustrating conversation there. So then in May 2019, Danielle Atkinson, Cassandra, oh gosh, I'm drawing a blank on her last name. Cassandra, another parent from ROMPA, and we made another presentation to the board, repeating the same demands we've been making for 2 years at that point around hiring practices, curriculum, discipline, and achievement disparities. And we always link discipline and achievement disparities because those two are absolutely interconnected. That's what the research shows us. No response, no follow-up from the board at all with that. So in the meantime, we have continued participating in the Cultural Competence Engagement Committee. We pushed the district to include parents in the planning, which we were finally able to get them to do in late 2019. But the translation of that planning input and what the CCEC meetings look like is really frustrating because they are still really just focused on showing only the small movement the district has made. And again, movement that's happened because ROMPA has been pushing them so hard. And so this brings us all to the recent months, which I think you all are more familiar with, right? And I want to have like time for questions and stuff. So I think that, I will tell you, in response to the district's kind of empty letter about the police killing of George Floyd, we decided to hold a town hall where, in addition to students and families speaking, we had an expert on diversity and equity in K-12 education speak. We then circulated our open letter, which when we submitted to the district had over 250 signatures. By the time we stopped actively collecting signatures, we had 293 signatures. We've yet to receive a clear, direct, concrete response to that letter. The district issued a letter later, but it didn't even mention our open letter. It didn't speak to any of the issues that we addressed in the letter. And so our position is that the 300 people who have signed that letter still have not gotten an acknowledgement or response from the district. We've been clear from the beginning what we believe the district needs to do to reduce and hopefully eliminate the harm students of color experience in its schools. We've pressed for policy changes. We know that this work can be done with strong, effective, courageous leadership. And this is the thing. We've been really frustrated, I think, with not getting answers or responses from the district, and instead the district always kind of deflecting and saying, but look at what we're doing over here. And our position is that we are invested in this district. We are as invested as the board members, as the district leadership. We are in Royal Oak Schools because we believe Royal Oak Schools is a place where our children can thrive, and we want to make sure that happens. But we can't make sure that happens if the district and board members are not willing to have these hard conversations. So that's why we decided to ask ROMPA parents to run for school board. And this is why we've endorsed Tim and Lisa and Erika and Lakeesha for school board, because we want the people in leadership that are willing to be held accountable for district practices and policies. In the meantime, we're continuing to serve on the CCEC, and we're continuing to speak up at board meetings. We're really concerned about this upcoming election. We know what happened in the district at the middle school in the previous election. Those kids that were chanting "Build the Wall" are now in the high school. Those adults that did not intervene are still at the schools. So it's October, and we would have expected by now a proactive statement or resolution from the board about how the district is prepared to handle the inevitable fallout on our students. And so that's where we are now. We, as parents, we are really worried about what's going to happen the day after the election, whichever way it goes, and how our students who are continuing to suffer harm in the schools, how are they going to be treated, and how are the adults in the school, and whether it's whether it's virtual or in person, right? We want to know what is the district's plan to protect and keep our children safe. So that's where we are now. So I hope I haven't spoken so long that I can't take questions, but thank you so much for listening and bearing with me with all the technical difficulties. I'm going to post, while I wait for questions, I'm also going to post a link to the candidates' answers to ROMPA's questionnaire. Maryanne VanHaitsma didn't submit her questionnaire on time, but we have all the other 5 candidates we have, and I think she posted hers on her webpage, but I'll post a link there so you all can look at that as well. So thank you so much.
Okay, if you have a question for Lisa Winters, first you'd want to hover your mouse icon over the bottom of the screen, then you'll see an icon that says participants. Then you click that, and that opens up a window on your right, and inside that window there's a blue raise hand icon. And so if you have any questions for Lisa Winters, go ahead and click that blue raise hand icon and we'll call on you. Paul Curtis, go ahead please.
Hey Lisa, thanks for your presentation. I appreciate you coming and sharing. And I think a couple times you said, and I agree, attitude doesn't change policy, but policy can change attitude over time. And frankly, I'm of a mindset that even if your attitude sucks, you still have this policy you're accountable to. So I appreciate that. But you mentioned a couple times specific policy change, but I really wanted to ask, what specific policy changes would you be advocating for at the Royal Oak School District?
Okay, thank you for that question. So yeah, I mean, I think the policies that we're looking for are around a culturally competent curriculum, right? So we want explicit language in district and board policies about what constitutes a world-class curriculum, whether that's in the mission statement or in the policy, and that curriculum needs to be anti-racist and it needs to be historically accurate, right? And culturally responsive. In terms of discipline disparities, we need policy changes that eliminate or at least move towards eliminating the racial disparities in discipline. Many of the racial disparities in discipline come from what we can kind of think of as subjective discipline, right? So dress code violations, for example, insubordination. We want a policy that eliminates insubordination as a category for discipline, because that is the single category that is that we are guessing, again, because we don't have data, we're going based on like what we know the research shows, that is a category where Black and brown students are disproportionately disciplined, and it's totally up to like the discretion of the adult, right? What constitutes insubordination and what the consequence would be. So that would be an example of a policy change that we would want implemented. I just thought, while I was talking about that, something just left my head. In terms of, hiring practices, right? We want, policies around who constitutes the hiring committee. What are, and across the board in terms of policy, like policies about transparency of discipline data, transparency of curricular changes, and policies around how are we holding the adults accountable for these workshops. So, the district always loves to mention Jay Marks. He's fantastic. So Jay Marks is the equity diversity consultant for Oakland County Schools. He does workshops for all the Oakland County schools around this. Even Jay Marks will say, workshops are fantastic, but without policy, right? So if because what we don't want is for this superintendent to leave or the board to change, and then the next group comes in and say, oh, you know what, diversity, equity, not so important. So we can stop these workshops. We can stop making sure that the teachers we hire are culturally competent. That needs to be in the policy. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you. So I saw three main categories there of culturally competent curriculum, disciplinary issues, which there's a lot to say about all these categories, and then hiring practices. Are those the big three?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
John Rummel, go ahead with your question, please. John Rummel.
Lisa, thanks for your presentation. Really appreciate it. I was just wondering, it seems like in working to create a better environment for children of color, aren't you also creating a safer and better environment for all students? I mean, a learning experience for everybody. We live in a diverse country, and this seems like it would be a good, and this isn't just for one group of students, this is for everybody.
That's been our position from the beginning, right? Is that when you, and I feel like I'm preaching to the choir with a Democratic audience, right? Like when you protect and serve the most vulnerable of a population, everybody benefits, right? That's so like if we have a more rigorous curriculum, right? All students will benefit. If we change, and this is really crucial around the discipline policy, because what we're not saying we want white students to be disciplined at the same rates as Black students. What we're saying is we want the school district to reduce its reliance on punitive discipline, because that is a kind of discipline that is absolutely vulnerable to implicit bias. But if you reduce punitive discipline, then on Black and brown students, you're also reducing punitive discipline for white students as well, right? If we think about, and I think that there's a really important kind of consistent intersection between the ways that Black and brown students are disproportionately impacted by these issues and the way that students with disabilities are disproportionately impacted. And then if you happen to be a Black or brown student with a disability with an IEP, then you're kind of doubly vulnerable, as I mentioned. But yeah, absolutely. That's always been our position, is not to, I say to people, I'm like, I don't want my child to be special. I want my child to have the opportunity to be ordinary.
Okay. Paula Martinez-Mante, go ahead with your question, please. And you're muted, Paula.
Yep,
there you go.
Thank you. Thanks again, Lisa. Appreciate your time today. So I'm a grassroots activist, and I'm used to poking the bear to try to get change to happen. What's the one thing you could tell us we could do to try and help your cause?
I think speaking up the school board meetings right now, I think supporting our candidates, reaching out to our candidates. If you are on the fence about any of our candidates, reach out to them and ask them the questions that you have concerns about. Those are like the main things. And so this is also, I mean, I appreciate you saying that, because I'm not, this is like, I was not an activist. I was not an organizer before this work. So I'm like learning on the job. Danielle this is her wheelhouse, but she is not in the States, or she's in the States. She's just not in our state right now. But that's, I think like what we know is that the board moves and the district moves when they hear from the community. So when they get phone calls, when they get emails, and from people identifying themselves as voters, as Royal Oak residents. So I think it's not necessarily anything outside of the box of what you all are used to doing. It's, showing up at board meetings and holding, the district accountable for what they're saying, responding to, the letter that they sent, the survey that they, and yeah, so that's, I'm sorry I don't have a better answer other than we just are, we have been consistently asking, so maybe asking the district, why are they not responding to ROMPA's open letter, and why have they not moved on these, these issues in any substantive way in the last 3.5 years?
Thank you. Lorie Savin, go ahead with your question, please. Lorie Savin.
Good morning. Thank you so much for your presentation, Lisa. I'm a lawyer, but this is not my area of expertise. The school board's a public body, and any public information should be accessible through a FOIA request. And I'm not sure if, some of this information, like who sits on the hiring committee, should be public information. The data about an individual student's discipline policy is private, but you would think that the school district has not just the data about how many suspensions, because obviously they're reporting it, but also demographic data about those students. Now, I know just from experience, because when I wrote a grant for my elementary school, that they didn't have great data because they don't ask students what their racial, background is. I'm wondering, have they given you any response that they can't provide the information they should be providing because they don't collect some of this data? Or is that part of the problem? And is there something that, if you've got new school board members, that's something they can change? Because you can voluntarily identify your racial characteristics.
Okay, yeah, thank you for asking that question. And I think that's like it's like a multi-part answer, right? It's multi-part question. So one, and I'll post the link right here. So Elliot Witt, who is a recent graduate of Royal Oak High School, he FOIA'd discipline data from Royal Oak schools last year, and he presented this at the town hall. So he dug a little bit deeper than we did from the publicly available data. So, but what the question that you're asking is really important, because that's part of what we've been pressing the district to do. We're saying you need to set up a method to collect this data. Other school districts have done it. This is part of equity work, right? Whether it's just kind of a form or, what have you, because what we've been asking for is the data that shows when a student is referred to the principal by the teacher, and maybe the student, maybe that doesn't escalate to suspension, right? But if you think about kind of like the stigmatizing effects even of a student, of the same student repeatedly being called out for like quote unquote disruptive behavior, we want to know, is this happening, or like the markups and markdowns in elementary school? Like we want to know at that level, like what's happening on a day-to-day basis in terms of the way that children are being treated in the schools, even before we get to the formal disciplinary proceedings. And so what we've heard from the district is they don't collect that data. We said, figure out how to collect it, and do that. And so I think that this and then the question of transparency is another big problem with the district. There are, we've asked for the information to be presented in a way that doesn't violate student privacy, obviously, right? But that was the last reason before this last week's board meeting that Mary Beth gave to Michigan Radio. She said, well, we can't give out that data because it violates student privacy, but you can provide the data about, you know, the racial demographics. So yeah, I think that, you know, I mean, the answer to your question is like, that's what we're asking for. We haven't gotten it, and we do believe that the district can do it. One of the recommendations from the original community forum was to do an equity report. This is a kind of, you know, and this is also part of what's frustrating for us as parents is we are all we all have jobs. Most of the parents of children of color are like two parents that are both working full time, right? So this is like, you know, and so it's kind of frustrating to have to do the work that actually can be easily done by somebody who is an expert in it and gets paid to do it, right? And so if you can do what's called an equity audit. And so that's one thing we're asking the district to do. Do an equity audit. You hire an outside firm, they come in and they, J. Mark's, his metaphor was like they come into your house and they pull up the rug, they turn over the pillows, and they get to this kind of information and they make a recommendation, again, based on, because the other thing is we want what the district does to be research and data driven. We're not asking the district to just kind of make up things as they go along. We're like, there's ample research on best practices for equity and inclusion. Just do what the research says to do. And you can do it without a lot of extra resources. I mean, that's also, you know, hiring an equity firm, that costs money. But a lot of the things that we're doing are practices that do not require extra money. You can be anti-racist and it's not expensive to be so. So that's another issue.
Then we'll make this the last question. Michelle Cook, go ahead, please. Michelle Cook. And there you go.
Hi, my name is Michelle Cook, and I am the president of Hamtramck Federation of Teachers, which I bring up. I also have a child in Royal Oak Schools at Northwood Elementary. I bring up my role because I just want to tell you a little bit of inside baseball, and that is that most school boards, they engage in training with the Michigan Association of School Boards, and I have sat as an audience member during this training, and I have heard them tell our school board members to be less responsive to the public in the you know, ends of being more united as a group. And so that may be some part of what you are running up against, because I heard them say, you know, forward all complaints to your superintendent, don't speak to people who are, you know, outside of that, and if you're having internal disagreements, that those shouldn't be shared at the board meeting. They should all be resolved before you present your public face. So I was a little bit concerned with the message that was there, and I'm sure that some of the school board members will be asked to speak later on in this meeting, and I would hope that they could address that, you know, how will they resist this kind of indoctrination into, we don't want to make a scene, we don't want to bring things up in public. Thanks.
Yeah,
Thanks for the work you're doing.
I have to say amen. I served a 3-year sentence on the Clawson School Board, and we had the exact same Michigan Association of School Boards training, exactly what you, how you described it.
Thank you. I did not know that. That is so inside. That's so clarifying, but also very frustrating because, you know, like you said, then, you know, who's going to center the children and like not submit to like that kind of silencing? That's really frustrating.
Well, thank you, Lisa Winters. We could go on for hours about this. It's an important topic, and you know, of course, time is a tyrant, so we can't do that. But yeah, I think personally, I'm surprised and disappointed at how much difficulty you're having. I've spent a lot of my time as a citizen trying to get government workers to do things, and it's obvious when they don't want to do something, they have 1,000,001 ways to drag their feet. And your story sounds very, very familiar to me. But I sympathize, and please keep us posted about the things you're working on, because I think a lot of people in our club are natural allies of what you're fighting for. But thank you very much for coming today, and let's hear it for Lisa Winters.
Thank you all so much. I really appreciate your time and your patience with my presentation. So have a beautiful rest of your day, this sunny fall day. Thanks again. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Lisa, and thanks for coming. All righty, let's move right into Democratic Party reports. Is there anybody from the 9th District Democratic Party or from the Oakland County Democratic Party who has a report to give? If you do, just click that blue raise hand icon inside the participants window. All righty, let's go right to elected officials then. Let's go to have any elected officials. If you're on the call, if you'd like to give a report, could you please click that blue raise hand icon and we can queue you up. Any elected officials, please click that blue raise hand icon. Senator Mallory McMorrow, please go first. Senator McMorrow.
Good morning, everybody. First of all, welcome, Frank. Welcome to Michigan and Royal Oak. I'm your state senator, so very excited to see you. And Erika, oh, Ray is clicking a lot of windows. Now I don't know what's happening. Erika, welcome to the first meeting. There's a lot of news. Obviously, a lot of news happened in the last 24 hours. Yesterday felt like 9 years. It was a long day. But I want to touch on two things. Number one, I worked very closely with Congressman Andy Levin, Representative Jim Ellison, who I know is also on this call, and we asked a lot of really hard questions of Beaumont related to their proposed merger with out-of-state advocate Aurora. We heard a lot of concern and negative pushback from doctors, nurses, staff, and community members who have, been lifetime residents and served by Beaumont. And I think all of us hold Beaumont in very high regard as a nationally ranked hospital system. And we know that nationally, whenever there are hospital mergers of this kind, that traditionally the result is higher costs and lower quality of care for patients. One of the biggest concerns that I know we all shared was that this merger would have created a new board made up of 15 members, and Beaumont would have only had 5 of those seats, with 10 being out-of-state hospital board members. So that left a question of, who's going to be making the best decisions for Michigan and who's going to be making the best decisions for our community. So we obviously weren't the only ones who pushed back, but we published a joint statement a few days ago citing some of that research, expressing our concerns. And then the news came down yesterday that Beaumont leadership decided to pause or end those conversations with advocate Aurora to focus at home, which is great news. It was great news that we were able to do something. And I spoke to a doctor at Beaumont just this week who said that thanks to a lot of the pressure that was put on over the past few months, that communication internally has improved significantly, that doctors and nurses and staff have a seat at the table now, that they're taking feedback, that they're addressing concerns. Obviously, I don't think every issue is solved with this news, but I think that it's a huge step in the right direction. And I'm really pleased that leadership was receptive to our concerns. And we prevented a merger. So that's good news to start the day. Then the day obviously took a turn. You may have seen the news towards the end of the day that the Michigan Supreme Court ruled that the 1945 Emergency Powers Act that the governor has been utilizing throughout this pandemic, they effectively ruled that unconstitutional. There are 2 different areas of law that the governor was using for her emergency powers, a 1976 law and a 1945 law. The 1945 law was much more broad and didn't require her to come back to the legislature to ask for an extension of the state of emergency. And they ruled that unconstitutional because it was effectively giving the executive office legislative authority with indefinite boundaries. So very concerning to me, especially, I think most of us on this call have widely supported the governor's response to this. Michigan was in a very, very dire place in relation to the pandemic in March and April. We are now near the top of the country in terms of controlling the spread of COVID-19 and economic recovery. Our economy is operating at around 87% of where we were before COVID. That puts us near the top 5 nationwide. So I have a lot of concerns about what this means moving forward. But effectively, this means that every executive order that she issued under the 1945 law is null and void. The executive office will be looking at how many of those can be reissued if they weren't already issued under the Department of Health and Human Services. So the department can actually issue public health orders when there is a public health threat, and those are still valid. So the first question that we got is, what does this mean about the mask mandate? The mask mandate was actually already issued under MDHHS, not the governor's office. So that is still valid. So please mask up, lead by example. We shouldn't have businesses or bars or anybody who's saying, take your masks off. None of this is valid. It is still valid. The governor's office is also going to continue to enforce any of the EOs for 21 days. That is traditionally the time that the Supreme Court grants to allow for anybody to ask for a reconsideration of a ruling. We don't expect that the ruling will be asked to be reconsidered, but that will give some time for the executive office to work with MDHHS. But the rest of that means that it is the legislature's duty now. This was clearly the result of the Republicans in the majority filing a lawsuit against the governor, many lawsuits, which is how it made its way up to the courts. They wanted a seat at the table. They wanted to be responsible for this, and now we are. So we had a caucus call with my Senate colleagues last night. We're just starting to figure out what's next. The House and the Senate weren't scheduled to be in session really until after the election, because as you can imagine, all of the House candidates are out in the field trying to run for re-election. So I don't know if we're going to be in session yet. I don't know what the Republicans' plan is moving forward. I have a little bit of concern with Senator Shirkey's statement last night that he put out, which says that this is an opportunity for the legislature to inspire, and that it's everybody's personal responsibility to take this seriously. So my biggest fear is that they're going to do nothing and basically trust people and businesses to make responsible decisions without any legislation to protect people. That obviously to me is very, very dangerous. This puts Michigan in a place right now. We are now the only state in the entire country that is not under an active state of emergency declaration. So more to come, but you now know what I know. My office is combing through any of the bill requests that we've had pending to see if there are any open areas of statute that we can effectively use as what's called vehicle bills to kind of swap out anything that might need to be put in to replace some of the executive orders. But yeah, more to come on that. Not great news, but obviously this shows that Supreme Court elections matter. So please vote for McCormick and Welch on your Supreme Court ballot. Moving forward, this won't reverse that ruling, but obviously this just shows that these things matter. Yes, Paul's got an absentee ballot. Please vote. Tell your friends to vote. Tell your neighbors to vote. I'm preaching to the choir on that one. Last thing I want to close with is something a little more fun. You may have seen I introduced a bill to bring back Michigan's blue license plates. And this is something optional. So it's bringing back the legacy license plate. This is something that California actually did a few years ago. They brought back a 1960s style black and yellow license plate. It's optional. There is an additional fee involved, but since California did that, they have since raised $20 million, over $20 million in new revenue
per year.
So the way this is structured is that it's an optional plate. If you want to get it, you can put it on a new Mustang or Camaro or a classic car or whatever you want to put it on. It'll look really cool, and it'll be additional revenue that will go directly to the transportation fund to help fix the roads without raising taxes, which allowed me to get a lot of Republicans to co-sponsor it. So I am cautiously optimistic about that, and hopefully I'll get a bill heard for the first time since taking office. So that's my news. That's a lot. But if anybody has any questions on anything, I'd be happy to take them. But like I said, news is still, we're learning a lot about all the news from the past 24 hours.
Okay, so elected officials, go ahead and leave those blue raise hand icons there. I recognize you as you come in. But if anybody else has a question for Senator McMorrow, go ahead and click that blue raise hand icon. And otherwise, we'll go ahead with Shar Douglas next. Looks like that's it. Thank you, Senator Mallory McMorrow. Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry, Kim Moon. Go ahead, please. Kim Moon.
Hi, Mallory. Just a quick question. Is there, I don't know if you know this or not, is there any way the governor can like appeal this ruling?
So she can't appeal it. So because it is state law in our Constitution, it's not something you could appeal up to the United States Supreme Court. She could ask for it to be reconsidered. We spoke with a few constitutional lawyers last night who said, you know, the timing of this is obviously awful because they ruled this in the middle of a pandemic, but it may not necessarily be the wrong ruling. So there's, you know, if she were to ask for it to be reconsidered, she would very likely, especially with the current Supreme Court, be handed another loss. And I don't know that that helps anybody anymore right now. So the odds of it being reconsidered in a different direction would be very, very slim. So I don't anticipate at this moment that would happen.
Okay, and thank you, Senator Mallory McMorrow. Royal Oak City Commissioner Shar Douglas, go ahead, please. Shar.
Thank you, Tom. And I know a couple of other commissioners are on this call as well. So I'll cover a couple of items and leave Commissioners Macy and Perush and perhaps others. I think I saw those two anyway to follow up. But since I'm first, I get to do the fun part. As you know, we tragically had an opening on the City Commission, and by virtue of our a city charter, this position was to be filled by appointment by the City Commission. We received an astonishing 41 applications for that seat. And I say to any of those applicants who may be in the room with us now, we have many committees and boards and commissions that people can apply to. And for the 40 people who were not selected, I encourage you all to submit an application for other city committees. Nevertheless, there was one application which was so head and shoulders above all of the rest. So thoroughly researched, so demonstrating an understanding of both municipal governance in general and the City of Royal Oak's policies in specific, that it was our pleasure to elect, or appoint rather, club member Brandon Colo to fill out the remainder of the available seat. Yo, Brandon, I think, oh, that's right, Commissioner Colo is also on this call. So yeah, totally righteous decision. So that's the cool fun stuff. And then I'll just point out that our City Hall is now open for early voting. Of course, you need to follow COVID procedures, and you'll enter City Hall through the east entrance, and the clerk's office is there. If you want to vote early, you can walk in, you can get an absentee ballot, you can fill it out, you can hand it into the clerk's office and be on your way. So those are kind of two highlights, but like, as I say, I suspect other commissioners may want to chime in, so I will leave it to them.
Yeah, we'll do all the city commissioners first, and then we'll let you ask questions of all three of them. So well, after that intro, let's go with newly minted City Commissioner Brandon Colo. Brandon Colo, go ahead, please. Oh, and by the way, Brandon, when are they going to fix that sewer in front of my house and cut my taxes? Brandon Colo.
Okay, so hi everyone. Thank you, Commissioner Douglas, for that introduction. I'm really honored and humbled that I've been selected by the body to serve. So most of you probably know me from when I ran in 2017 and lost by just about 20 votes to Commissioner Levasseur. And I've really stayed involved since then, right? Vice President of the Library Board. I'm part of the zoo governance body. So I'm really excited to now move over to the library, or I'm sorry, the library, move over to the city and use kind of this knowledge I've gained over the last 3 years and help move the city forward. So quickly about me, I'm spending the next week meeting with the city manager, city attorney, kind of getting caught up on some of the closed door sessions that the public's not really privy to, and learning a little bit more about the city staff, but I'm hitting the ground running on October 12th. So if you guys ever have any questions, I'm going to continue coming to Dem Club. I'll be here. But just reach out to me. I'm always available.
Thank you, Brandon Colo, and congratulations. It's good to, yeah, I still remember how disappointed we all were when you lost that race, and it's just great to see you on there. Thanks, Brandon.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Royal Oak City Commissioner Pat Perush, go ahead, please.
Good morning, everyone. Shar stole a lot of our thunder this morning by explaining the process that we went through in order to get Brandon selected, and the overwhelmingly number of applications that we received. it was so humbling to recognize that we had that many people, most of whom we don't know at all. You expect, obviously, the activists and the people who are always complaining to think that they can fill out an application and perhaps get appointed. But I would say a good 3/4 of the applications, maybe more, were people that I didn't know. They're people who live in the community, who have a great deal of love for the community. They have a tradition of service to whatever organizations and other communities that they've been involved with. And they genuinely want to volunteer and do more to help the city of Royal Oak. And that was just overwhelmingly positive and humbling to know that there are that many people out there who took the time to fill out the application, gave us paragraphs of explanations as to why the issues of the city are important and what are the most important issues that are facing us. It was just so gratifying. So hopefully a number of those people will continue to volunteer and apply for other boards and commissions and fill out some of our broader volunteer ranks, because it was genuinely really positive to receive. There have been a couple of questions about absentee voting. Shar explained that the new City Hall is open, at least the front part of the City Hall. If you were to go in, and you can, there's nothing to prevent you, even if you have already filed your absentee ballot into the drop box, there's nothing to prevent you from going into the door that is on the east side of City Hall, which is where the new parking lot is, and just taking a quick look around. You're not going to be able to get back into where the first floor offices are, because those are still not open to the public, but you'll be able to stand in the lobby and look into the City Commission chambers, the new City Commission chambers, which are immediately to your right, which is where the City Clerk's office has set up a couple of City Clerk employees, socially distanced apart, so that they can process voter registrations, applications for absentee ballots. You can pick up an absentee ballot there. And there also is a drop box right in the lobby there to put your absentee ballot if you fill it out while you're there. There are two other existing drop boxes in the city. One is right in front of the police station. You can pull up and hop out and put your absentee ballot into that drop box. There's also one in the parking lot right behind the police station. It's the P4 lot. And that in that drop box location, you don't even have to get out of your car, because the box is on the driver's side of the way they have it set up, so that you can just pull right up and put the ballot right into the drop box without even getting out of your car. There's going to be a third drop box that the city clerk has ordered with extra money that was provided by Oakland County Elections Bureau right alongside the new City Hall. To my knowledge, that hasn't arrived yet. But hopefully it'll be in place soon, so that there will be a third drop box location next to the new City Hall. So those are available, obviously, for anyone. And they've already been receiving lots of absentee ballots back. There's an employee from the city clerk's office that goes out once an hour and collects ballots and other stuff that is in the drop box. So it's not like it sits there all day or all night. They collect it routinely throughout the day. It's a very safe transfer, because they just walk right across the street into the front door of City Hall and start at least cataloging what ballots that they've received. That's legally all they can do so far. They can't open them up yet. But they can at least acknowledge and take a look at the number on the outside of the envelope and know that they've got it back in their system. Fill out those ballots quickly, get them in early. The earlier they get in, the faster the process is going to be in terms of processing them. That's about the news that's dominated city life recently, is getting ready for the election. The new police station is still set to open, the move into the new police station by the police department is still set to happen mid-October. I think the date that they've picked is October 19th. That hasn't changed. So once that is in process and all the employees are out of the police station, which is connected to City Hall, then they can begin the demolition process of the older buildings, which initially will include removing asbestos and lead, and then the actual demolition process will start. So that's about what's new in terms of the city and what we're doing with what we're concentrated on these days. Obviously, there's other issues that will, once we get past the election, will kind of percolate back up to the top. But right now, for the moment, everything is relatively quiet, and we're just moving toward Election Day.
And thank you, Royal Oak City Commissioner Pat Peruk. Royal Oak City Commissioner Melanie Macy, go ahead, please. Melanie Macy.
Hi, I'll just be quick on some updates that I think you probably have heard mostly about already. One is the 2-hour free parking in the city structures started October 1st. So it's not 2 hours free just before 5 now, it's 2 hours free all the time, which is really fantastic, especially for when our library reopens. We don't have to pay $5 just to go get a book. So Normandy Oaks, which has been moving along pretty well, finally, despite the hiccups in the construction this year, is going to be ready for an opening event. We have tentatively scheduled it for Halloween. So we're looking to have community, we're trying to figure out how to have the community come take a look. We're going to maybe schedule tours to walk through and have stations up at some of the key points for everyone to come look and enjoy that. The real opening is going to happen next year now, just because of all the delays. And then the other thing I wanted to talk about was Tom Regan and Amanda Herzog have been putting together this work on a community garden, and now we've been talking recently to our DPS director and now our city manager about this initiative, which I'm starting to call a community gardener initiative, where we're going to be identifying some places in parks where we can have people who live around the community in the area come do some gardening, either vegetable gardening or flower gardening. So we'll be sending out information and trying to get an event together for that as well. I think that's all that I had.
Okay, and if anybody has any questions for our city commissioners, and try to keep them brief, go ahead and click that blue raise hand icon. And otherwise, we'll go to the rest of our city, or rest of our elected officials here. So does anybody have any questions for our city commissioners? Ian Duncanson, go ahead.
Thanks, Tom. Yeah, mine's just pretty quick. Just knowing that there's a lot of effort on the federal level to undermine the perceived safety of voting by absentee ballot, using drop boxes, et cetera. I'm just curious if you can elaborate just briefly on what the process is for collecting those ballots, the number of people that are involved, just so that we're kind of, what measures are we taking to cover that, so that there's no questions that these election, or that these ballots are counted authentically. And you may not know, I know your commissioners, not the election officials, but I'm just curious if you know.
Which city commissioner would like to take that? Pat Peruk, go ahead, please.
What is happening in Royal Oak is basically what is happening throughout all of Oakland County. We are blessed in Oakland County with a county clerk who oversees the Board of Elections, who is committed to best practices in terms of handling the election. Not only absentee ballots, but also the way polling places are set up, and the way voters have access to the entire voting mechanism. At this point in time, she is and has been having regular workshops and conference calls and meetings with the various individual city and township clerks who are throughout the county, to make sure that they are constantly brought up to date as to what is happening in the county, what are best practices, little tweaks that they can do to make things easier and more effective and more transparent. So I guess the best response is that we are really fortunate that we've got a county clerk who is overseeing what the local individual clerks are doing and making sure that they are following the best practices. I know from talking incidentally to Melanie Hallis, our local city clerk, that they are 100% right now focused on the election and handling what is going on in terms of not only ballot requests, which are about 3 times higher than what they were last time, but also processing the ballots as they come in. Obviously, there's other things that they have to do. They have to take minutes for various meetings. They have to issue death certificates and birth certificates and so on. But they are about 99% focused just on handling ballots. People are surprised to find out that we only have 5 employees in our state clerk's office. It would seem like, given what they handle and what they had to handle with the last election, which was a huge turnout, we'd think, oh, you must have 20 people in there. No, we have 5. But they are 5 of the hardest working people I have ever experienced in my professional career. They're all well-trained. They all know what the processes are. They're very conscientious and careful, and they will do the right thing. So I have every confidence that in terms of no matter what the threat is, that if anybody can handle it, Melanie and her team can handle it. And you can go on the city clerk website and also the county board of elections website to find out more specifics about how, for example, absentee ballots are handled, and the way they have to be sequestered and the way that they are sequestered when they are finally opened and so on and so forth. Those kind of specifics are there for you to get a little bit more information on. I don't want to start talking about it because I know I'll make a mistake, but the information is there. But because we have a really, really good county clerk, and she is determined to make sure that her team in the various municipalities are doing the right thing, I have every confidence that we're not going to have any problems at all.
And thank you, City
Thank
Commissioner
you very
Pat
much.
Farouk. And yeah, tell everybody, vote early. If you wait until election day to vote, there's a gazillion different things that can happen in your life that prevent you from voting. Get your ballot in early. It's much more likely to be counted than if you wait till election day to vote. No, absolutely no question about it. Let's hear from State Representative Jim Ellison. Jim, I just got done voting for you. State Representative Jim Ellison. So I can see you're unmuted, Jim, but we can't hear you.
How about now?
There you go.
Okay, take the headphones off. Mallory, Senator McMurrow pretty much covered what's going on legislatively in Lansing. It's a big disappointment with the ruling from the Supreme Court, especially with the experience that we have as legislators with the Republican leadership's ability to lead us through this this pandemic. Just for an example, we had last time we were in session was 2 weeks ago. We had a Republican representative from the Upper Peninsula that spent the whole week on the floor without his mask, being COVID positive. And we didn't find out about it until after the weekend. And I found out about it through a Facebook post. I mean, so Republican leadership was not on top of it. No one told us that we spent a week with this representative who basically is unprotected, like the vast majority of the Republican legislators are. They don't wear their masks. They think it's a joke. They don't take it seriously. And with the numbers increasing in the Upper Peninsula now, they've pretty much avoided the mass of it. But the governor just downgraded them to a level 4 here last week, which means the numbers are climbing up. And with this guy coming up from the Upper Peninsula, and all the Republicans to do was crow about the court victory they had yesterday and how they're going to make everything work. And based on their experience that I've seen, Mallory, you can probably verify this with me as well. They're not doing the job. They're not taking it seriously. They're not taking a leadership position. And so we'll see what happens. But fortunately, we are out of session officially until after the election, but that doesn't mean we won't be called up for special session. The other thing we're very proud of is the Beaumont situation. That was a battle that I started in my office right after the first of the year when I started getting concerns from doctors and employees and patients that something was happening at Beaumont and it didn't smell right. So we started doing our investigation, talking to people, and trying to find out to the bottom of it. I still have some connections at Beaumont, so I was able to capitalize on some of those insider information. And we were joined along the way, and Mallory was with me from the beginning, and then we brought in Congressman Levin here a few months ago. And we had a concerted effort with expressing to the board of the hospital our uneasiness with this, that it wasn't going to do anything but put money in the pockets of certain administrators. And so we were very adamant that this was not a good thing. And fortunately, we finally got through. The message got delivered here last week, and they've canceled the merger talks. And so, especially in the middle of this health crisis, I think it's a good decision that's going to help the health of the city of Royal Oak and around at Beaumont Hospital. So we're happy about that. The only other thing I've got is I still have signs left. If anybody needs an Ellison for rep sign, give me a call, drop me a note. We'll take care of it, but that's all I've got.
All right. Does anybody have any questions for Jim Ellison? Kurt, was your question for Jim Ellison or was it for an earlier elected official?
No, it's regarding the election process and what they did during the last primary election, and how the high-speed machines of Oakland County were brought, you know, all of your absentee ballots up to the day, I think up to Monday before the Tuesday primary, all went to Oakland County for their high-speed readers. And during the election day, Tuesday, we received our precinct same-day ballots that people filled out. Some actually registered that day and filled them out, and they ended up at our precinct. Mine's 17, I'm a chair there. And 2 city hall officials from the clerk's office would run them through our tabulator to add them to our totals. All very safely. Nobody, the secrecy is maintained. And even at the evening, I mean, the polls closed up at 8, but we didn't get out of the precinct until about 9 or 9:30 because, again, we were running the last minute ballots through the tabulator that remained on to take those absentee ballots. So it's all very safe, all very. The only thing I can stress is that people that fill out absentee ballots, take your time, because there's no, you know, there's no going back. If you screw it up, you can't spoil the ballot like you can during the day. So you have to make sure that you fill it out correctly, and all will be smooth and simple from then on. That was it. That was my contribution there. Sorry.
Thank you, Kurt. And
All right.
Senator McMarr or Ray Work, we had a question. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, so just a comment on the last statement. It's a great point. So in the primary, there were about 11,000, little or closer to 10,000 ballots that were discarded. And as we all know on this call, Trump won Michigan by just about 11,000 votes. So those ballots, those absentee ballots were rejected for signatures not matching, being filled out incorrectly, and around 800 people had actually passed away between the time they filled out and sent in the ballot and the election. There was a headline on Breitbart that ran that said 800 people in Michigan who were dead tried to vote. But it was very misleading because it shows that the system works, because those ballots were received, they were checked against death certificate records, and they were rejected because, unfortunately, the voter had passed away. But that is a great reminder. Make sure you fill out your ballot correctly. Make sure you put it in the secrecy sleeve. We passed legislation in the House and the Senate to now allow clerks to begin processing ballots 1 day in advance of Election Day, which is not nearly enough based on what all of the clerks were asking for. But it is at least something, and I've heard from all of our clerks, we know that many of our poll workers are senior citizens. So just the process of taking the inner sleeve out of the outer sleeve, believe it or not, saves hours of time on election night, particularly for many of our senior poll workers. And we also passed legislation to allow them to work in shifts now. That was a concern that I heard from some of our clerks. If you've got somebody who's 70, 80 years old, who's volunteered to work the polls, and they're still there by 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning on election night because they weren't allowed to work in shifts previously. So some good news that I hope will help our clerks on election night, but really good advice to make sure you fill it out correctly and work with a family member if they've got any questions, or we've been putting out a lot of videos on my Facebook page about how to fill it out, and I'm happy to answer any questions because I've been working with the Secretary of State's office and our clerks very closely on all of this. And then we had a question for Rep. Ellison.
Yes, Rep. Ellison, how's the pig?
Oh, the pig is fine, getting bigger by the day. For those that don't know the story, we got a call on...
Sorry for derailing.
You can hear me, right? Yeah, we got a call on Labor Day weekend. Jody being the manager of the animal shelter, we got a notice that someone had abandoned an animal outside the shelter. So Jody started out on her way up there, then she got a call from the police officer, said it's a pig. And so we went up there and she found inside his milk crate this little tiny pig. And so we brought it home. There's no rescues open on Labor Day weekend. Well, unfortunately or fortunately, he's still with us. And he's eating out of eating us out of house and home, and he's doubled his size since we've had him. But Momo Piggy is doing just fine. We'll keep him for as long as we can.
It is the best thing to come out of 2020. Thank you.
All righty. Oakland County Commissioner and Chair of the Oakland County Board of Commissioners, Dave Woodward. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, Tom. Good morning, Democrats. As we go into a month until this election, we're in a good place. And it's just great to see everyone this morning and preparing for all the canvassing of phone banking that we all need to be doing to make sure we push those ballots into the clerk's office as quickly as possible. And from a county perspective, I'll just give like 3 quick updates. One, I mean, the theme, obviously, the confidence in our election system. I want to echo everything that's been out there. And also a special shout out, and I think I've done it before, our Royal Oak City Clerk, Melanie Halas, is, I mean, really a stellar leader in the clerk community in Oakland County. I formed a Oakland County Safe, Healthy, and Secure Elections Advisory Council, which is the thing that Kurt was talking about, getting that equipment, pushing more money out to local communities to pay an extra $50 for poll workers who to help with the recruitment of poll workers, and a whole bunch of reforms and policy efforts to make certain that our elections run smoothly, not just for the primary, but also for this election. Melanie is part of that, and has really, as a result of that, has made it, I mean, a much more effective, powerful effort, which again, it affirms my confidence in the system. Is just a lot of work at this point. And people should rest assured, and every clerk across the county, regardless of their political affiliation, are more than willing to open up and show this is what happens, and everything can be tracked. And that's the important thing. So as the president is trying to discard our vote by mail process, I mean, turn everyone back to our local community, our professional clerks that are actually running this with the transparency and the oversight, the public oversight, and how these ballots are processed. I mean, we're very fortunate in Oakland County because we have the resources and the equipment and all the things to make that happen. And we're going to continue to do so. Probably the biggest thing that has accomplished in the last time we were together is that Oakland County adopted its annual budget. It's a 3-year budget and annual appropriation to run county government, and at $910 million vote to fund public health, our law enforcement and community justice systems, our economic development efforts, all the things on top of the $219 million that we've been spending on addressing the pandemic. It was accomplished as a result of 21 budget hearings, and frankly, under our current our new county administration, Executive Coulter, put into some reforms that, when he and I were on the board a long time ago, sharing some frustration, implementing truth in budgeting to make certain that the dollars that we're spending that year match the monies that we expect to actually be coming in. I mean, it seems like a very novel idea, but we came into this process with a long tradition of underestimating revenues and overestimating expenses, which put us in a situation that we weren't able to make the necessary investments in the things that were absolutely critical and important. So making certain that column A matches up to column B by the end of the day. Not sexy, but at least it's going to identify resources that we can be reinvesting into our communities, help improving people's lives, and furthering helping us get through this pandemic together. Some of the highlights, new allocated funds for the Oakland 80 initiative. You've heard Executive Coulter talk about raising the education attainment skills for 80% of the workforce with a post-high school education skills certificate, training, etc. Some new community policing initiatives, which we'll be rolling out probably our next board meeting, to really partner with local communities on training and community initiative, work in partnership with the Community Foundation for Southeast Michigan, adding additional dollars to provide technical support and training support to really bulk up community policing efforts across the county. And something I'm very proud of, Oakland County is going to move in the direction of having body cams on all of our sheriff officers. This is a battle that I've had with the sheriff for probably a decade, and he has relented, compromised, I guess is probably maybe the better word. We expect an RFP to be issued come the end of this year. A pilot is underway right now, and expect body cams to be up and running next year. That's a huge, it's a 180 shift. I'm glad it's happening because it adds, I mean, public accountability, transparency, and improves it improves the application of law enforcement. And it's the largest police agency in Oakland County, and without question, long overdue. The last thing I want to say, and I want to give a shout out to Amanda Herzog that's on this call, and everyone knows Amanda with our environmental board in the city, but she's also Royal Oaks. She's an Oakland County Parks and Rec Commissioner, and fortunately also a Royal Oak resident. Oakland County Parks is putting on the ballot, it is on the ballot, a renewal and replacement of the operating millage to support our Oakland County Park system. 80 miles of trail, 7,000 acres of parkland spread out, 13, 14, depending on how you count the new ORV park that just opened up in North Oakland County. In addition to some sweeteners in there to increase access to for seniors, veterans, and people with disabilities, free day passes for all those to those parks that require it. I mean, a car fee. In addition to a dedicated stream of funding to help combat invasive species and other environmental protections. And lastly, and I think it's so it's related, the partnership that Oakland County Parks has with Royal Oak, with Normandy Oaks, to be able to create a dedicated stream of revenue, to be able to do those type of partnerships, to expand parks, green space opportunities, to move recreation opportunities to areas that we may not have the space to have a big giant park, but we can bring recreation opportunities to kids and families all over the county. And so we're able to do all of that for a small $35 for your average $200,000 home. It is a sound proposal. It's necessary to fix all the things that have been, frankly, neglected over the last 20 years, $20 million worth of deferred maintenance. We can do all of that and all the things that I listed by a yes vote on the Parks Millage. And so I certainly hope everybody will join. And I'm going to reach out to Tom. There's some lawn signs, vote yes in the parks that just are hot off the presses. I know Amanda's got some. I believe the chair of our Parks Commission, Gary McGilvery, has some. And we just want to get those out there just to make sure that people continue, complete your ballot. It's like one of the last questions on the ballot to make sure that we vote and support our parks.
Thank you, Oakland County Commissioner Dave Woodward. Frank Kamala, you had a question? Go ahead, Frank.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on a couple of things. First of all, I worked as a poll worker back in Massachusetts through 6 elections. The most recent congressional election, just to emphasize the importance of filling out those absentee ballots correctly. The congressional election that I was involved in, the difference between the winner and the loser was 112 votes, and you're talking across 15 to 20 cities and towns within that district. So making sure those are filled out properly is very, very important. The second thing I wanted to say is that I don't think you'll find a more devoted, meticulous group of individuals than you will find working at the polls. And they're the same people every year. They're across the political spectrum, and their one goal is, and they're very proud of the fact that what they're doing is accurate, it's safe, it's above board. That's what I wanted to say. And the last thing I wanted to ask is, I know that there has been obviously a recruitment effort to get people to work as poll workers, but also in a state like this where the election, the presidential in particular, is so close, having people working visibility for Democratic candidates is very important. And I wondered at this point whether the numbers of people that the city clerk, particularly in Royal Oak, is looking for have been met, so that someone like myself trying to make a decision about whether I work the polls or whether I work visibility, I'd like to know what the status of the recruitment of poll workers is at this point. Thank you.
I would say, and Frank, to your point, thank you for your service in that capacity. You're absolutely right. I'm always amazed at how smooth these poll operations run at that level, at the county board level, and have you. Truly amazing. When I talked to Melanie, So we were actually getting ready to launch a bit. There's certain areas around the county where they are a little bit shorter, but they feel that they'll be in a good place. We have a different challenge here in Royal Oak over the last few years as Royal Oak's become a lot more of a Democratic stronghold in these elections. The poll has to have an equal number of Democrats and Republicans working the polls, and so as you were mentioned. So where she has sometimes some challenges, she doesn't have enough Republican poll workers to be able to balance it out. And so I said, like, well, I guess I'll try to help with that. I always want to make sure that we have enough poll workers countywide, but it's because by law you have to have an equal number of Democrats and Republicans for exactly what Frank's talking about. I mean, you want because everyone's overseeing the same thing. When there's a dispute and a question, they pull everyone together, they make a decision together, they document all of that, and so that is. Feel free to reach out to Melanie. If you can be a poll worker in Berkeley and live in Royal Oak, you can be a poll worker in Pontiac and live in Royal Oak. And so there's some areas where they're a little lighter, and the clerks themselves are already trying to move people around to help accommodate that. Last I heard, we're pretty good, but feel free to reach out to Melanie. She'd be happy to at least make sure you're on her list in case she ever needs it.
All righty. Thank you, Oakland County Commissioner and Chair of the Oakland County Board of Commissioners, David Woodward. Royal Oak School Board Trustee, Deb Anderson. Go ahead, please, Deb Anderson.
Hi. First, I want to thank Dave Woodward and the County Commission for how much support they've given to the schools in Oakland County. It's been pretty awesome. And my phone just started ringing, of course. Sorry about that. I wanted to just say that the Royal Oak School District and the school board, we take diversity, equity, and inclusion very seriously. It's one of my passions. I've been involved with, it started out in the winter, spring of 2017 after the Build the Wall in the news. We started with some community forums and an initiative called Forward Together. That was when our previous superintendent, Sean Lewis-Lakin, was still with us. So I've been involved in that group, and it then became the Cultural Competence Committee by that fall, 2017. We changed the name of it to that. I've been really involved in all of those meetings. And I think that we're making progress. Is progress ever fast enough? No, it's never fast enough. I mean, progressive change takes time. It's a cultural shift. And I'm sorry, I just read the comment. So I don't think we're slow walking. I think we're trying to do the things in an intentional way. I think we're trying to make sure that it is the proper things that we're doing. You had a lot of help from Oakland schools. And I really, really am committed to this, to making this work, and that we're going to do everything the right way. We have added over 50 people, 50 citizens, and 37 staff. And we'd love to have all of you join us on that committee. I can let you know, I can let Lauren know if you want to when the next meetings are, but we are committed to that change. And also, for instance, Maryanne and I, we have joined the Oakland County Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Task Force, the school boards, and it's pretty great. Get to share ideas. It turns out all the districts are working really hard. And so I would really love to have many more of you join us. In addition to that, the other thing, and also I'd love to have the chance to present what we've been doing and what we're all about at the next STEM Club meeting, if that would be okay with you guys, or a meeting soon. But just let me know, and I would be glad to have a presentation. Also, big thing coming up on the ballot, our operating millage is coming up on the ballot in November, and it's 46% of our budget. It's huge. The Democrats have always been known for supporting public education, especially in Royal Oak, and we really appreciate that. And I was hoping this club might endorse that millage. I know all the candidates have expressed support for it.
Does anybody have any questions for Royal Oak School Board Trustee Deb Anderson? Okay,
Also,
go ahead, Deb.
So if you have questions, you can email me at Deborah, deborah.anderson@royaloakschools.org. I will get you your answers. I'd love to have dialogues with you guys, and I appreciate the time. Thank you.
Yeah, if you could put your email address in the chat there. There you go.
Lauren just did. Thank you.
Alrighty. So now we're going to go on to candidates and campaigning. If you're a candidate for any elected office and you'd like to say a few brief words, and please keep them very brief, go ahead and click that blue raise hand icon. And while you're doing that, I'm going to mention the Michigan One campaign, the Democratic Party coordinated campaign. They are now back to canvassing, back to door knocking. So if you're interested in doing that, I'm going to send an email directly after the meeting and you can sign up for canvassing. You do have to take a required training first. They want to make sure you're trained in how to avoid getting infected or infecting someone else with COVID. So you do have to complete that half hour of training and then you can sign up for a shift. I've already completed the training and signed up for a shift. For nonpartisan races, and I included this in the last email, we just had some suggestions in there for nonpartisan races, and the reason we did that, Chuck Altman mentioned at our last board meeting that sometimes people will delay sending in their ballot because they're not sure how to vote in nonpartisan races and they don't know where to find the information. So we just tried to provide a little information about all those races. We didn't endorse on all those races and we don't have time now to do it, but that's why that section was included in the email. And if you disagree with anything I put in there, just please email me back and tell me why and give me some more information, and I can always adjust the message in there. So let's go ahead and hear from our candidates. Royal Oak School Board candidate Tim Chahorsky. Go ahead, please, Tim.
Good morning, everybody. It's really great again to see everyone here this morning. Just a brief update on what I've been doing. I've been to about 4,500 doors in the last 3.5 weeks. I've personally walked 2,500 of those doors myself. I'm tired. Every day I'm tired, but I'll keep walking. I've raised some money. I'm looking to get together a mail piece. If anyone is still willing or able to donate anything, $5, $10, $15, $20 to my campaign, I'd super appreciate that. And my endorsement list is growing, and I'm super, super proud of this. I've been endorsed by the Michigan Education Association, AFSCME Council 25, UAW Region 1, the IBEW Local 58, the Carpenters, and the Building Trades. And I wanted to clarify one thing said earlier in the meeting today, that I was not asked to run as a ROMPA candidate, and I am super proud that I've been able to align myself with those candidates, and my moral compass has pointed me in that direction. I've been a NAACP member for about 8 to 9 years, so I'm really glad to have the support of that group as well. And I'm going to drop a link into the chat. If anyone's interested in a lawn sign, please let me know. I've got about 75 to 100 left, so let's get those out there. Thank you, everybody. Have a great weekend.
Thank you, Royal Oak School Board candidate Tim Chahorsky. Oakland County Circuit Court candidate Clarence Das. Clarence Das, go ahead, please.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me again. I know I see you guys very regularly, and you had me also at the very first candidate forum we as candidates had, so thank you again. I think this is probably the last time I'm going to see you as a group until the election. Oakland County Democratic Black Caucus, 14th District Dems. 50 judges in the county, including the incumbent and the majority of judges in the family division. I'm hoping to have your vote. And one last thing about diversity, which was brought up earlier today, especially in our justice system, the only way to change our justice system is to add more diverse members of the judiciary, more diverse members of law enforcement. I am a first-generation American. As I mentioned, I've been endorsed by various minority groups, and I hope to bring that diversity to the bench to hopefully improve our justice system. So thank you all. If you have questions for me, I'm happy to answer them. You won't hurt my feelings at all. But anytime you want, call me or go to my website. Thank you.
Thank you, Clarence Das. Oakland County Circuit Judge candidate Lorie Savin. Lorie Savin, go ahead, please.
Good morning, all. It seems like today's meeting has just flown by. I can't believe we've been here for so long already. So great information. I've been with you guys and following your meetings and what you're doing, even though I live in West Bloomfield for several years now, and I love the activism in your club. So I am a candidate for Oakland County Circuit Court Judge. Most of you have heard me speak many times, and I'm not sure that I need to go through everything again for you. Since I last talked, I've gotten more endorsements, AFSCME. I got the well-qualified rating from the Wolverine Bar Association, which is the Oakland County minority bar. I've gotten additional endorsements from other individuals, the MEA, and things like that. I do want to mention that, the roots in the community that I grew up in Southfield and in Oak Park have stayed with me and will continue to stay with me. And I'm going to be true to myself when I get elected as judge for your county, be accessible and open to everybody. So I do have signs. I'm actually running out and getting more this week. I still have friend-to-friend cards, not a whole lot, but some that need to get in the mail. So if anybody wants to volunteer and help out, I'd greatly appreciate it. And I thank you all for your continued support. Many elected leaders, and I shouldn't forget to mention Shar Douglas, Jim Ellison, Chris Gregg, all support me, and I really appreciate everybody's help. I did get endorsed by the OCDP. I'm not sure if that's happened since our last meeting, so I should mention that too. Thank you all.
Thank you, Oakland County Circuit Court Judge candidate Lorie Savin. Royal Oak School Trustee candidate Erika Alexander. Go ahead, please.
Hi, so I just wanted to thank you for this opportunity and for asking ROMPA to come. I'm really excited. I'm planning actually on joining the Greater Royal Oak Democratic Club. I love the energy and I'm excited about this opportunity. First time that I'm entering to run for school board. And I am endorsed by Michigan Education Association and also by ROMPA. I have lawn signs. I could put that information in the chat, and I would just appreciate everyone's support. Thank you for the opportunity.
And thank you, Royal Oak School Board candidate Erika Alexander. Royal Oak School Board trustee and running for re-election, Maryanne VanHaitsma. Go ahead, please, Maryanne VanHaitsma.
Thank you, Tom, and thank you, everybody. It wasn't we didn't have the opportunity to respond to Lisa's in this particular forum given time limitations, but Deb did make mention that we can, we're available for questions and to speak with anybody. So, and our contact information is in the email as well. I'm rerunning for school board. So I am very passionate about our kids. Every community activity I do is related to the youth of our city. And youth in general. I think, my primary message is to continue to be, keeping our kids safe, delivering quality education, being financially responsible, which we have to in this day and age, and my commitment to equity, diversity, and social justice. Those things are all very important to me. I have been involved with the cultural competency work since day one. The day after I was elected, the first time in 2016 was the day after was the Build the Wall, which I was horrified, absolutely horrified by. And in one of the forums, I don't remember if it was the ROMPA or the Dem forum, I specifically expressed my fear with this next election and the impact to our youth as well. We continue to see hatred being propagated everywhere, which is just disturbing at best. I mean, we see it within our city, we see it nationwide. So I am absolutely afraid after the next election, regardless of the outcome. And so I will have conversations with anybody, and we certainly are going to be prepared to address that if anything should come up. Our focus has been on financial. We're grateful for the state budget being come down to us, and the fact that we won't have a cut to our district, which was a potential of us having a loss of $5.5 million this year, which is not going to be happening now. So that's pretty grateful that that's worked out okay. Concerns for next year? Absolutely. The state revenue projections for next year are a little bit shaky, and so we have to be fearful of having financial availability next year for funds. So that's a big concern as well. But yes, I mean, my commitment to the work that the district has done and the work that we continue to do, even working collaboratively with other Oakland County schools, school boards, and learning what strategies they're using to implement all these programs and establish policies. Those conversations happen pretty frequently. So, and just to clarify the comment that came up earlier, I don't know that I have ever been in a presentation where we've been told not to speak. I find that disturbing at best. The forum of a school board meeting is one that doesn't allow for dialogue, and I think sometimes people's misperceptions about that are challenging, right? So those forums, when we have open forums that we're able to, we're able to have dialogue, I think is pretty critical. So thank you.
And thank you, Royal Oak School Board trustee and candidate Maryanne VanHaitsma. And then finally, Royal Oak School Board candidate Lisa Hanes. Lisa Hanes, go ahead, please.
Unmute. Hi, everyone. Happy Saturday. What a great meeting. Thank you so much for just letting me have this few minutes here to speak. We've all been busy, all of the candidates. Absolutely. You see our signs everywhere, right, guys? I love it when I go somewhere and I can see Maryanne's and then mine and then Erika and then Lakeesha and then Tim's. And I'm like, we should just make a quilt out of it. But yeah, been busy. I did my lit piece and sent it out to over 9,400 absentee voters. That was exciting. My kids think it's pretty cool. And, that's why I'm doing it. We're all doing it because we care about the kids. I have 2 kids right now at the high school, and they are actually doing okay with this virtual learning. But my it's a senior year, it's a bummer. And we're trying to do everything we can to try to make it a good year. I do have extra lawn signs as well. I delivered some this morning, but if you want one to, increase your property value, let me know. I'll drop one off. You get it personally delivered by me. Like my fellow candidates, we're doing it for the kids. As a first-generation American and a minority myself, even though I may not look like it, I'm about the diversity, whether it's curriculum, whether it's our educators. I was thrilled to see how many diverse candidates we hired this year. That is awesome, and it is moving in the right direction. I as well want a safe environment for our kids. I've been a nurse for 23 years. I understand everything that has to do with the pandemic, how to keep the kids safe, both physically and mentally. That's one thing that I think we really need to look at. I work in an industry where the amount of authorizations and requests for behavioral health services has doubled. So we need to look at that as well. And then, of course, quality education. Who doesn't want quality education? Royal Oak is a great city. We should be up there with every other school district. We should be in the top. We shouldn't be listed 40th. We should be listed in the top 10. I mean, I'd like us to be number 1, but that's just me. But yeah, this is new for me. I'm enjoying every minute. I am learning. I've been endorsed by ROMPA, the UAW. Would love a Royal Oak Dems endorsement. Just, I just think we all want what's best for our kids, for our schools, for our teachers, and I hope I get your vote. Thanks, guys.
And thank you, Lisa Hanes. And then Lakeesha Morrison, candidate for Royal Oak School Board. Would you like to say a few words?
Hey guys, thank you so much for hosting this, and I apologize, I've been in and out of the meetings. Been running around with kids and getting them to one point to the next point. I just wanted to say thank you guys so much for the ongoing support as a whole and as a community, always having my back when things are just so hard and I'm struggling to have that voice for the Black community. And I appreciate everyone that's stepped up and said, what can I do to help out? And you guys are the first ones that are always so quick to say, what can I do? How can I help? I want to be the ally, and I appreciate it so much. I believe that this school year has been rough for everyone, but I feel like after the election, things are going to just get so much better with all the candidates that are running. I think they all bring so much to the table, and I just hope and pray that, with ROMPA's endorsement for the ones that are running and ROMPA just having everyone's back, the children of color and Black people, that we can come together as a whole the next couple school years just to make a change that is needed, that's been needed for a very long time. And I appreciate the fact that people are acknowledging that we want change, and change is good for everyone. So thanks again, and I appreciate you guys, and have a blessed and beautiful day.
And thank you, Royal Oak School Board candidate Lakeesha Morrison. And Lakeesha is referring to, Lakeesha led a lot of the Black Lives Matter protest in Royal Oak that happened over the summer, and also other parts of Oakland County. And I know a lot of Royal Oak Democratic Club people were there, and it was good to see. Okay, the way we're going to do this, we've got to do a quick other business item. We'll do a quick calendar item, and then I know some people wanted to propose that we make endorsements during this meeting, so we're going to do that last. We're going to do the endorsement discussion last, because that's going to push us past noon, and if you're not interested in who we endorse or whatever, then you can drop off the call, but otherwise stick on the call. We are going to go a little late today, and I apologize for that. But first, I'm going to do a few calendar items, and if you have any calendar items, go ahead and click that blue raise hand icon, and we can get them. Our next meeting is going to be on Saturday, November 7th. Our guest speaker is going to be ACLU attorney Jay Kaplan. Jay Kaplan's the head of their LGBT project. So that's next month. Our club adopted Cummingston Park. You know, we clean it up every year. We're having our semi-annual park cleanup next week, Saturday, October 10th at 10 a.m. So if you'd like to help us clean up Cummingston Park, just be up there next Saturday, October 10th at 10 a.m. and wear some yard clothes, and you can help us clean up that park. Does anybody else have any calendar items? If you do, go ahead and click that blue raise hand icon. Okay, we'll have two other items, other business, and then we'll discuss endorsements. First, other business.
Tom,
I'm
can
sorry,
I
go
sorry.
ahead.
It's Lauren. I can't raise my hand as the host. So, hey, good morning, everybody. We are real excited about one more DEM event we've got coming up. We're going to do a kind of a day of ballot drop-off city action. We want to really encourage everybody to get their ballots in as soon as possible to make sure that they're filled in correctly and counted accurately, and that there's no confusion at all on November 3rd. So on Saturday, October 17th, we're going to be hosting a ballot drop-off day. Arv and I and a couple other board members are going to be hanging out near the 3rd Street drop-off, and we're going to be handing out cider and donuts and cheering for people as they drop off their ballots, just to say thank you for participating in this really important process. As of right now, we think there's probably going to be a couple elected officials kind of dropping in and out to be able to see everyone, but the focus that day is really just to get as many votes cast in Royal Oak as possible. I'll drop the Facebook event for that down in the chat as well, but we'd really like to see everybody.
Thanks, Lauren. Senator McMorrow or Ray Wirt, go ahead, please.
Hi, it's Ray. Lauren, would it be valuable if, I know that the OCDP has a lot of I already voted signs that say Biden-Harris on it, and we've been trying to figure out what to do with them. Would you guys want, like, I don't know, like 10,000 of them? I mean, probably not that many. I mean, we got them from the Biden campaign, and we're like, no one, like, we're not sure what to do with them yet.
I'm cautiously optimistic that we'll get 10,000 people to show up between 10 and 4. So a couple things about that. Melanie did ask us to be careful. Like, we have Melanie's approval for this. We're going to set up a table. We're going to have the I voted the I voted selfie, Royal Oak selfie station for people to take pictures with, and extra stickers and stuff like that from her. We do have to be a little bit careful about partisan stuff, because otherwise we can't be too close to the ballot drop-offs. So even though the food is going to be supported by and given out by our club, it's not a Democratic event. We could have maybe like a secondary spot to pick up those signs if people wanted it. I'll be in touch with you and we can figure that out. Maybe like mine or Tom's house or something, people could come pick them up.
Yeah, or even if there's a parking lot nearby that's
sure, a car nearby, yeah.
past 100 feet, we could.
Yeah. Cool, I like that idea a lot. Yeah, we'll be in touch.
Awesome, thanks.
Okay, thank you, Lauren Jasinski, and thank you, Ray. Sam Miller from the Michigan One campaign, go ahead, please.
Hi, everyone. Great to see you all this morning. My name is Sam. I'm the local organizer with the One Campaign for Michigan. As Tom mentioned, we are rolling out a canvassing operation here in the state, being very cautious about it, but would love for those that are interested to join us in this effort. We also will be continuing over this final month with our Get Out the Vote phone banks. We are in our full-on Get Out the Vote mode to make sure that everyone follows through and casts their ballot, and would love for you to join us in one of these efforts. I will put my contact info as well as our mobilized links to our phone banks during the week and weekends, as well as our canvassing efforts. And if you have any questions, as always, feel free to reach out.
Thank you, Sam Miller with the One Michigan campaign. I'll see you tomorrow. Does anybody else have any calendar items or other business they wanted to state? And then if Ian Duncanson, go ahead, please.
Yeah, so mine's really quick, but I was talking with Lauren a few days ago, a week ago maybe now, And I am considering starting a podcast that would be kind of would be affiliated with our club, since we have so many connections. So all of you elected officials that are on here, and potentially elected officials, be aware that you may get a contact from me to be interviewed on that podcast. And our goal would be to kind of like, we'll still workshop what the name of it will be and that kind of thing. But the goal will be to have our own podcast to bring in more younger people, reach more people across Michigan. And just, podcasts seem to be kind of blowing up, especially with younger people who we're trying to motivate to vote and be informed. So I'm really excited about that. So stay tuned.
Thank you, Ian Duncanson. That's good news. Anybody else have any calendar items or other business that they wanted to bring up? But if not, we'll go to this item of endorsements. I'm going to, Tim Jaworski, go ahead, please. You're muted, Tim.
I was ready for the endorsement conversation.
Oh, okay, wait on that. Okay, so what I'm going to suggest is first, I would like to entertain a motion that we suspend the rules, because we normally, before we consider something for endorsement, we have to do it a month ahead of time. So if someone would make a motion that we suspend the rules and vote to endorse the Royal Oak Schools operating millage, because we just plain old forgot to do that. But if anybody would make a motion like that, you could click that blue raise hand icon. Mary Mills, go ahead, please, Mary Mills.
I'd like to make a motion that we suspend the rules for this meeting.
And vote to endorse
the
Royal Oak Schools operation, yeah.
Yeah, and to endorse the Royal Oak Schools board.
Okay, and do we have a second? Lisa Hanes, are you seconding the motion?
I second that. Yes.
Okay, is there any discussion on whether or not we should endorse a yes vote on the Royal Oak Schools operating millage? Any discussion?
Yes, please. You said, I heard Mary say board, not millage. So I just want to make sure that you're actually.
Okay, the motion is, does the Greater Royal Oak Democratic Club encourage a yes vote on the Royal Oak Schools operating millage?
Yes.
Okay.
So any discussion on that? Alrighty, all in favor of the motion indicate by clicking the green yes icon in your participants window. And if you're opposed, please click no. And I'll mention, only vote if you're a dues paying member. And we go on the honors system. We don't actually go back and check everybody to see if they'd paid dues, although Ian is ready to check if we have to, if we have any disputes, but only vote if you're a dues paying member. So how are we looking, Lauren? What's the totals?
Still a few coming in right now. It is 35 yes, 0 no out of 55 people in the call.
Okay. And we need to get 60%, so I think we're there. Before we endorse anything, we have to get 60% of the dues paying member present to vote yes. That's our club rules. So we've just endorsed, we're going to encourage everybody to vote yes on the Royal Oak Schools operating millage. And I'm going to suggest next, if anybody has any motion for endorsing in the circuit court judge race, we do that next and then save the school board for last, because that'll be the lengthiest conversation.
Hey,
so if anybody has go ahead, Lauren.
Should we also endorse the Oakland County Parks millage?
Yeah, go ahead and make the motion.
Cool. I move to temporarily suspend the rules to endorse the Oakland County Parks millage.
Do we have a second for that? If there is, click that blue raise hand icon. Maryanne VanHaitsma, second. Okay, is there any discussion on whether or not we should endorse the parks millage for the county? Melanie Macy, nope, okay, she was just seconding. Ray, did you have a discussion item on that? No, okay. Yeah, I didn't think. So all in favor, if you're in favor that we should encourage a yes vote on the Oakland County Parks millage, indicate by clicking the green yes icon. And if you're opposed, click that red no icon. And again, only vote if you're a dues paying member, paid dues this year.
I'm
How
sorry,
we
I
looking,
just
Lauren?
pressed the buttons.
Oh, that's okay. How we looking, Lauren?
33 yes votes.
Alrighty, so we endorse that as well. So I'm going to suggest that next we consider endorsements in the Oakland County Circuit Court race. Does anybody want to make a motion for if we should do an endorsement in the Oakland County Circuit Court judge race? If you do, click that blue raise hand icon. Tim Jaworski, go ahead, please.
I'll try this again. Tom, I move that the Greater Royal Oak Democratic Club endorse Lorie Savin for the 6th Circuit Court.
Okay. Would anybody like to second that motion? If you do, click that blue raise hand icon if you want to second it. Looks like we got a bunch of seconds there, so we're okay. Alrighty, so now if we could clear that board, if there's any discussion of whether or not we should endorse Lorie Savin for the Oakland County Circuit Court Judge, please click that blue raise hand icon and we can call on you for discussion. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and vote. If you're in favor of endorsing Lorie Savin for the Oakland County Circuit Court Judge, please indicate by clicking that green yes icon, and if you're opposed, click that red no icon, and we'll give us a couple of seconds, let everybody get a chance to click their icon of choice.
Just a reminder, to find the vote icon, you need to open the participants menu down at the bottom of your screen, and then there's going to be a yes, no, raise hand icon. That's the one that Tom's talking about.
Jody Ellison, did you have a discussion on that? Did I miss you? I'm sorry. No, okay, that'll be something next. Alrighty, Lauren, what's our totals?
35 yes, 0 no.
Okay, so we've endorsed Lorie Savin for the Oakland County Circuit Court Judge, and I'll adjust the email we send out to reflect that. Now for the school board, and I'm not sure how to do it because there are no candidate slates. If the candidates were running as a slate, it would be easy just to endorse the slate. If we had various slates proposals to endorse, that might take a while. So my suggestion is, if you have an idea for someone we should endorse for the school board, that we bring the names up individually and vote individually up or down. You'd have to get 60% for each individual. It is possible we could endorse more than 4 that way, and so that would be the downside of that. So that's my introduction. Of course, you can propose anything you want. I'm not setting rules on that. You can propose a slate if you want. You can propose an individual endorsement if you want, and we'll just go through them one by one. Shar Douglas, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Tom. I would like to introduce a motion that the club endorse Maryanne VanHaitsma. And once that motion is seconded, I'd like a chance to speak to my motion.
Alrighty, is there a second for the motion? And then if you click that blue raise hand icon, I'm assuming you're seconding the motion. So is there a second to motion for, alrighty, let's go right to discussion then. Why don't you go first?
Yes, thank you, Tom. We heard a presentation this morning that was critical of the school board, and we find that the school board does not have the time or has not been afforded the opportunity to respond. Maryanne VanHaitsma has been an advocate for equity within the school since the Cultural Competence Committee was established 3 years ago. I know she welcomes the voices of 3 new board members to speed up and intensify the district's programs to address racial disparities in discipline, diversify the teaching staff, and establish a comprehensive culturally competent curriculum. For those who participated or attended the Democratic Club Forum here a week ago, Maryanne talked about her broad qualifications for the position, her commitment to quality education in a safe environment for our kids, and for fiscal competence. Maryanne has been active in the school district for 20 years and on the Board of Education for 4 years. Fiscal responsibility and knowledge are vital to the success of our schools. She knows the district's budget and financial constraints, and I think Royal Oak needs her experience and knowledge. Someone said earlier, we want change on the school board. There are 4 positions open. We can have change and we can have the experience that Maryanne brings to the table.
Thanks, Shar. If there's any other discussion of the motion to endorse Maryanne VanHaitsma, excuse me. Melanie Macy, go ahead, please.
I actually still have my hand raised for another endorsement.
Oh, okay, yeah. If only have that blue raise hand icon clicked right now if you'd like to join the discussion on the endorsement for Maryanne VanHaitsma. So if you have then you'll have a chance to make another endorsement afterwards. So only click that blue raise hand icon if you want to join this discussion on this motion. Barb Bolton, go ahead, please. Barb Bolton.
I thought I was seconding her, Charles' recommendation of her. I thought
okay.
But I certainly advocate for her, for everyone to vote for her. I think she's done a really great job in all the different capacities.
Okay, thank you, Barb. Michelle Cook, go ahead, please. Michelle Cook.
Hi, I just wanted to clarify something that I had said earlier. I was, of course, referring to a meeting that I had attended for the school board in which I teach. And I also wanted to say that I have been to a number of recent school board meetings that were especially talking about the response to COVID-19 and what our plans would be. And I found Maryanne VanHaitsma to be very insightful and to ask a lot of probing questions, which I think is very important when we are trying to have somebody on the school board who will, you know, ask the deeper level questions to, you know, to get beneath the surface of a plan.
Thank you, Michelle Cook. Kim Moon, go ahead, please. Kim Moon.
I just wanted to say, you know, we had Lisa A. Winters on earlier talking about ROMPA. The current school board members, and Maryanne is one of them, have not responded to ROMPA's letter yet, and it was sent quite a while ago. She's had plenty of opportunity to respond, and she hasn't bothered to, which is why she doesn't have ROMPA's endorsement. So I'm voting no.
Thanks, Kim. Treva Formby, go ahead. Treva Formby.
Actually, I was going to say what Kim said was ROMPA's been trying to get the attention of and engage in a dialogue with the school board for 3 years. And there hasn't been much dialogue. I mean, the school is kind of on a, you know, a parallel track. They want to go and have their little committee and do their little happy talking. But, you know, I attended the meeting recently and there was, nobody said the word racism. I mean, it was like an hour-and-a-half meeting about racism and nobody said the word racism. And I think that that's my problem with the board, is that they have that FOIA that Elliott Wood did of the Royal Oak High School showed racial disparity in discipline in the Royal Oak schools. Students of color were twice as likely to be disciplined for soft disciplinary problems like insubordination and, you know, teenager stuff than the white students. And I have to say, that is something that my kids come home to me every day and tell me these stories about, you know, so-and-so white kid behaved so outrageously and nothing happened to him. And then 3 days later, the black kid, you know, did something and got suspended. So it's not, I mean, I hear anecdotal stories from my kids, and then we saw the evidence from the FOIA, and that is something, and still on the CCEC call, it came out that Royal Oak Middle School has been keeping survey data from the kids on whether they feel discriminated against for 3 years. And we asked if we could see that data. And they said, oh, no, it's privacy, blah, 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 blah. You're keeping, that data is highly pertinent to this discussion. So all we get from the board is a complete silence on racism, happy talk on diversity, and diversity and racism are not the same thing. And if they've had 3 years to respond.
Okay.
This was
Thank
not,
you, Treva.
This was not an ambush. They have had 3 years to respond. Sorry.
Okay, thanks, Treva. Mark Walton, go ahead, please.
Yes, Tom. I want to concur with Char's motion. Maryanne is my neighbor, and I think most people that know her realize that there's nobody in Royal Oak who works harder on behalf of kids than Maryanne does. And I think it'd be a travesty if she didn't get our recommendation and if she's not reelected to the Royal Oak School Board.
Okay, thank you, Mark. And then Melanie Macy, go ahead, please.
Okay, turns out I do have something to say after all. I've been involved in the Cultural Competency Committee since the last election, and I've known Maryanne since that time through that and through the PTA meetings. And I just want to say that, I mean, I've been working with Lisa, and I am doing my best to be an ally and following along with the work of ROMPA, and I encouraged ROMPA families to run for the school board position. That said, I think we have 5 great candidates here, and the school board has many flaws, and I'm looking forward to a shakeup in it. But Maryanne is one of the better members of that. And she is one of the ones who's asking tough questions at these meetings. And she does speak up. I think she could do more. I think she knows she could do more. I think our job is to push her to do that more. But nonetheless, I agree with Mark Walton that she has been an asset and an advocate for our students, and she deserves the support of this body.
Thank you, Melanie Macy. Kurt von Eberstein, go ahead, please.
I got to unmute, sorry. I got to tell you, I've known Maryanne VanHaitsma ever since my wife taught her two daughters everything she knows about music. And as in band, Maryanne VanHaitsma has been involved with the Royal Schools Foundation, which I'm the treasurer of. She's very outspoken about her beliefs, and she's one member of a cog of the old school board. This is an incumbency that is much needed for maintaining Maryanne's knowledge and her passion and compassion for these issues. And I think this is the upcoming year of relief. I believe in all of ROMPA's motions. I believe that we need to change. Change is hard, change is slow. But a school board is a procedural board. They have budgets, communications, everything you can imagine during those meetings that may not get into the nitty-gritty, but this is the year. This is the year upcoming that's going to take care of this. It's going to bring sunlight into this situation, and Maryanne VanHaitsma needs to be part of that. That's
Okay.
it.
Thank you, Kurt.
Yep.
Anybody else want to comment on the motion? If not, we will go ahead and vote. So if you agree with the motion that we endorse Maryanne VanHaitsma for the Royal Oak School Board, indicate by clicking yes. And if you disagree with the motion, indicate by clicking no. And then when you're ready, Lauren, tell us if the motion got 60%.
I'm not exactly the person you want to put on the spot with math, but I do, just for some clarification. So there's 50 people left in the meeting, 23.
Well, no, just 60% of the people voting. That's our club bylaw.
I'm sorry, should we also have the candidate who's in question abstain from voting?
No, it's open to club members. Yeah.
Okay.
So just to confirm, 60% of the people casting votes.
Right.
Good, then this passes.
Okay.
Oh, wait, but hold on. Were people allowed to? We didn't allow people to abstain. We were going to.
Well, no, it's 60. Oh, yeah. Well, okay. I'm sorry. We were going to do, yeah. If you didn't want to vote on the motion, and Arv is absolutely correct, we did want to give people the opportunity to abstain. So if you want to abstain from this motion, you don't want to vote yes or no, but you want to abstain, click the blue raise hand icon right now, and you can abstain. And then we'll need 60% of the voting members to approve the motion. I apologize, Arv, we talked about that, and I completely forgot about that. So if you want to abstain, click the blue raise hand icon. If you're in favor of the motion, click yes. And if you disapprove, click no. And then Lauren, go ahead and give us our vote total.
This still passes.
Okay. And then maybe you could just dump the raw numbers in the chat just in case anybody wanted to question it. So we've endorsed Maryanne VanHaitsma. Alrighty, let's clear that board. Everybody clear all your blue raise hand icons. And then we'll go again. Do we have any other motions to endorse candidates for this election? And if you have a motion to endorse a candidate, please click the blue raise hand icon. Terry Moncrief, go ahead. You're muted, Terry.
Hi, I was just trying to take my hand off.
Oh, okay, go ahead. Okay, Tim Chikorsky, did you want to make a motion to endorse a candidate?
Well, that was my abstention from the last vote.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
How do you, okay, we cleared them now. Okay, so now we're back. So if you'd like to make a motion to endorse a candidate, do so by clicking that blue raise hand icon. And Kim Moon, go ahead.
I make a motion, we endorse Lakeesha Morrison.
Okay, if you'd like to second that motion, click your blue raise hand icon if you'd like to second the motion that Kim Moon just made. So we're going to call that seconded by Melanie Macy. Oh, no, it's okay. So everybody's cleared now. Alrighty, she just, okay, so now if you'd like to second that motion, go ahead and click that blue raise hand icon. Melanie Macy, did you mean to second the motion? Was that a second, Melanie?
She nodded yes.
Oh, okay, I didn't see her. Alrighty. Is there any discussion of the motion that we endorse Lakeesha Morrison for the Royal Oak School Board? Mark Walton, go ahead, please.
Yes, I concur with the motion. Lakeesha is a lifelong resident of Royal Oak, graduate of Royal Oak schools. She's got children attending our schools. She's an activist and leader in both the school community and the broader community. She's been endorsed by ROMPA, by the MEA, by the UAW. So as we've heard today, issues of equity, diversity, and inclusion have been front and center in this school board campaign. And I believe that Lakeesha would bring a unique and fresh perspective to these issues, as well as other business that would come before the Board of Education.
And thank you, Mark. Is there any more discussion on the motion that we endorse Lakeesha Morrison for the Royal Oak School Board? If you'd like to chip in, click that blue raise hand icon. And I'm going to say a few words. I met Lakeesha over the summer when she led those Black Lives Matter protests. And, you know, I agree with Lakeesha on all the policy issues at hand, but she's also got that rare combination of passion and ability that's so rare in public life. You know, she inspires people and she's smart. She knows what she's doing and she knows what she wants. I think we should endorse her for the Royal Oak School Board myself. I certainly plan to vote yes. Melanie Macy, go ahead, please.
Yeah, you said part of what I was going to say, Tom. I've been watching this race really closely. I've got 3 kids in the schools and I care a lot about this. And over the summer when the Black Lives Matter marches were happening and I met Lakeesha and was just so impressed. And I thought, man, this woman should run for school board. And I was really thrilled when she decided to do just that. I think we would be lucky to have her perspective on the school board. And yeah, I hope you vote yes.
John Rummel, go ahead, please. John Rummel, go ahead. You're muted right now.
Sorry. I just want to second what everybody has said so far. She's a real leader in the community and just an important voice for diversity that'll bring a different perspective and one that's obviously needed here and around the country right now. So I think we should endorse her.
Thank you, John. Any other discussion on the motion to endorse Lakeesha Morrison for the Royal Oak School Board? And we'll do the same as before. If it's yes, click the green yes icon. If it's no, click the green no icon. And if you'd like to abstain, click the raise hand icon. I'm sorry, I think some of those people, is there any way to clear the blue raise hand icons? Because I think people were clicking to discuss before I called the vote.
I thought that we had gotten all the discussion out, but I can't.
Let me ask, anybody who clicked that blue raise hand icon, did you mean to add discussion or were you just voting to abstain? If you meant to discuss, go ahead and unmute yourself now and add your discussion. Okay, we're good then. So click green for yes, red for no, blue to abstain. And tell us when you got a total, Lauren.
This passes.
Alrighty, so we've endorsed Lakeesha Morrison for the Royal Oak School Board. So can you clear that board before I ask any questions and I won't confuse anybody? Alrighty, so we're blank now. So if you have a motion for any other endorsements, indicate it by clicking that blue raise hand icon. Dave Woodward, go ahead, please.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to endorse Erika Alexander, for the club to endorse Erika Alexander for school board. And then I can speak to that motion if there's a second.
Okay, Do we have any seconds for endorsing Erika Alexander for the Royal Oak School Board? If so, Kyle DeBuck, is that a second? Is that a second, Kyle DeBuck? Go ahead and tell us.
Nope, I was looking to make a different motion.
Oh, okay. If you'd like to second that motion of Dave Woodward's, please, and there we go, Mary Mills is a second. And is there any discussion on the motion? Dave, you wanted to discuss?
Yeah, I just wanted to like say something. It's like, so Erika's someone that I had the opportunity to meet when my oldest started going to school. As a mother of a child of color, as a social worker, as someone who leads with her heart, but as well as has a political analysis and a clear vision of change that needs to happen. There's no question she's a candidate that we need on the school board, and I support her 100%.
Thank you, Dave. Is there any other discussion of the motion that we endorse Erika Alexander for the Royal Oak School Board? Melanie Macy, go ahead. Or Kyle, did you want to address that motion? Discuss that?
I guess I'm just curious about procedure, Tom. There's 4 seats up, so are we capping ourselves at 4 endorsements?
No, we're not.
Okay.
Is there any other discussion of the motion to endorse Erika Alexander? Melanie, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. So I know I've been speaking on all of the candidates, but the reason I came here today actually was to nominate Erika for this endorsement. As I said, I've been watching this really closely. I've been following along with the school board very closely over the past 4 years, and particularly over the last year. I've been to these meetings, and I've seen the work that's being done. And I didn't know Erika at all before she ran for this position. And I've been at the forums and reading through the candidate questionnaire responses, which I really encourage everyone to do. And she is so thoughtful about these issues of diversity and equity in our schools. And also really looking at this through the perspective of a mother who's fighting for her child, but at the same time trying to make sure everyone else is going to be on the same page fighting for them too. I just have been absolutely impressed with her, and I wholeheartedly support her for the school board.
All righty. Thank you, Melanie. And there's no other discussion. So we're going to do the same way we did last time. Click green for yes, red for no. And if you want to abstain, click the blue raise hand icon. And Lauren, tell us when you're ready with the total.
This passes.
Alrighty, so we've endorsed Erika Alexander for the Royal Oak School Board. So let's clear that board before I ask any more questions so I don't confuse anything. Alrighty, so if you have any other motions for endorsements, you can go ahead and click the blue raise hand icon and indicate that you'd like to make a motion. Is there any motion that we endorse anyone else? Kyle DeBuck, go ahead, please.
Thanks, Tom. I'd like to move that we endorse Lisa Hanes.
Lisa Hanes for the school board. If you'd like to second that motion, if you could indicate by clicking that blue raise hand icon. Looks like you got a couple of seconds already. Is there any discussion of the motion that we endorse Lisa Hanes for the Royal Oak School Board? Kyle, did you want to discuss anything on that?
Sure. I just say, I think we're lucky to have such a great pool of candidates this year. And I think clearly many of whom are worthy of this club's support and endorsement. Lisa was endorsed by ROMPA. She's been supported by the UAW. She has she's a nurse with a medical background. I think brings really valuable and important expertise to the table. I think we all agree that we do need kind of a shift in vision and leadership on the school board, and I think Lisa will contribute greatly to that. So hopefully you all join me in supporting it.
Thanks, Kyle. Any other discussion for the nomination that we endorse Lisa Hanes? Arv, go ahead. You're muted, Arv.
Sorry, I was just seconding.
Oh, okay. Any other discussion of the motion to endorse Lisa Hanes for the Royal Oak School Board? All righty, let's go ahead and vote, and we'll do it the same way you did before. If you're in favor, click the green yes icon. If you're opposed, click no. And if you'd just like to abstain, click the blue raise hand icon.
Sorry, this passes.
Okay, so Lisa Hanes, we've endorsed you as well for the Royal Oak School Board. Is there anybody else that wanted to make any other endorsements? I think we've covered all the bases here. Alrighty then, I would entertain a motion that we adjourn.
So moved.
Moved. All in favor, indicate by waving your hands. Anybody opposed, indicate by shaking your head back and forth. Alrighty, thanks everybody for joining us. I'm sorry we went over, but I think it was a good event. We meet next Saturday, November 7th. We'll have Jay Kaplan from the ACLU. Thank you everybody for joining, and we'll see you next month, or else I'll see you on the doors.